So thank you everybody for joining us here. We're really excited. We got a much bigger response than, I was, of course, hopeful we would get a big response, but this exceeded my expectations. My name is Jeff Lazarus. I'm with Real-Time Music Solutions. I'm one of the founders and the CEO, and I'm gonna go around and give everyone a chance to introduce themselves while I'm continuing to let people into the session. And I'll just, for point of reference, let everybody know that I'm speaking to you here, zooming to you here from the Chelsea neighborhood of Manhattan, New York City. We're all in different locations, particularly the RMS team, but you too, of course, but where it counts is what we're about to show you with the rehearsal aspect. I'll turn it over now to my partner, David Smith.
Hi there, my name is David Smith. I am one of the founding partners and also Director of Research and Development, and I am zooming in from Montclair, New Jersey.
Let's move it over to Ellen.
Hi, I'm Ellen. I'm with RMS. I do sales and I'm in Brooklyn.
Hey, I'm Steve. I work in tech support and feature development for RMS, and I am in Brooklyn as well.
And I'm David. I do content development. I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina.
So as you can see, we're in a number of locations, and that shouldn't affect what we're going to do for you here today. And with that, I think we're going to jump right into the demonstration. We're going to try to set it up kind of as a little show. We're going to perform a few songs. One thing to understand about the model of RLS is there are two roles. There is the director, and there is one or more participants. For the purposes of this demo, David Smith, my partner, is going to be the director, and he's going to be talking through kind of what's going on. And I may chime in here and there. Several of us are going to jump off Zoom so that we can go over to the Rehearsal Live Share software because we can't be on both at the same time. I'm going to stay on Zoom and keep myself muted, but I'll primarily be interacting through RLS. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to David Smith to go over anything I missed and carry forward.
Well, I don't think that, Jeff, that you missed anything. I think that we're right on target. Overall, we thought the best way to demonstrate RLS is to actually show it to you, and then we can talk about it later. So we have created 3 short tunes, and we'll demonstrate a variety of different RLS features at that point. Afterwards, the RLS team will come back and join us on Zoom, and then we can have a Q&A discussion. What I recommend is if you have a question or something, don't try to remember it and hold on to it. Put it into chat, and that way we'll respond to those as things occur. So with that being said, I think that we'll start. I think one thing to point out is that we're going in through Zoom. We're showing RLS through Zoom. Zoom has been improving their ability to deliver audio, but in no way does Zoom audio match what RLS can put out. So our goal with RLS is to provide as accurate of audio as possible with synchronization amongst all the performers. Those are our priorities. We'll talk more about this later. I think right now, though, we would like to demonstrate the system. So if the RLS team wants to hop off and say goodbye for now, and we'll see you on RLS in just a second.
See you in a sec.
Okay, I'll stay on, David, while you're getting things connected, and then I'll mute myself.
Great. So the first thing, of course, Jeff, I need to have my ability to share the screen so I can share what the director will look like.
Yes, thank you for reminding me.
Of course. And
you should now have rights.
I do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the share. I'm going to share the entire desktop. I'm also clicking on the share computer sound and optimize screen share for video clip. This is good practice for all you Zoomers that might want to do this in the future. So I'm starting screen sharing. Hopefully people can now see my screen. Could we verify that?
I can see it.
Okay, good. So another thing that is important, this is the Rehearsal Live Share application. There'll be another window that pops up as well immediately once we start it. But because of Zoom, we have to make sure that we have the right drivers for RLS to go to Zoom. So I'm going to go to Preferences under Audio. You'll notice that it does say Zoom. Therefore, we're all set up, but this is a good check. So there we are. We will be starting momentarily. I am going to institute the RLS session by going to the live share window under Tools. This pops up. So just a real brief look at this. If everyone can see this, this is the invitation window. If your name is there with a green dot, it means you're all set to go. You have the right show and the right RMS application. I note that these are the people that we're working with, but oh, look, here's a yellow dot. So I think I'll just hover over this to see what's going on. So I hover over Yuri, he's one of our developers, and he is actually in the wrong show for this, which is a good thing because he should be developing, but it is Oklahoma and we are in the RLS demo, and he is also in RLS. Oh no, he is in Coach, which is another one of the real-time applications that also hosts RLS. That being said, Jeff, I'm about to institute the rehearsal.
I'm going to mute myself and turn off the speakers here.
Okay. And then I think at one point we're going to start the rehearsal. So you just select the people that you want to have as part of your rehearsal, click the rehearse button. This opens up the live share window, and now here are people are popping in. Hello, David. Hi, Ellen.
Hi.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi.
And hi, Steve. So
Hey.
for those that are looking, you'll notice there are some red bars as people come in. This is our RLS trying to find the right synchronization so that all of our performers will be synchronized together. It sometimes takes a few seconds for this to happen. And sometimes if you have really bad internet bandwidth or you have other types of issues that are going on, that might happen. We have no control over whether your network packets are going to arrive on time, but we will make sure that we assemble them well enough that you will get a synchronized performance. So our first performance is going to be Dreams, and I am going to move to an RLS window that the other windows look very normal, but one of the things that we have, because we're also a music application, is you have a whole mixing window. We have the ability here to be able to set levels and panning for all of our performers so that you can actually develop mixes. Let's, at this point, people just check your drivers, make sure that everything is correct. And I just want to make sure that I can hear everybody. I did before, but David Horowitz, you there?
Here, I'm here.
Yay, and Ellen.
I'm here.
And Jeffrey.
I'm here too.
And Steve, finally.
Here I am.
Okay, so without further ado, Dreams. going to stop the performance. Okay, great. So I think what we were just showing you here is a quick RLS session where we made sure that everyone is singing, they're singing together, and they're singing in synchronization. So that is the major thing that I wanted to make sure that we covered in this particular thing. But one of the things that I think is very important, and one of the features that RLS has, is the ability to make a recording and then to immediately share that back. At this moment, and it's important to point out, because of the nature of latency, the fact that everyone is singing and it sounds synchronized to the director, it's actually happening at slightly different times to each of the performers, because we don't know how much delay is going to happen. In the world of Zoom, Zoom tries to get the sound to you as quickly as possible. They sacrificed quality of sound and synchronization for getting the lowest latency. However, in music, even though Zoom has reasonably good latency, it's still 100 milliseconds, 200 milliseconds. This is the nature of the beast with internet audio under normal internet protocol. So since we're dealing with that world, we know as musicians that if you have a 100 millisecond delay between two people, the music will just fall apart. People are singing at different times and hearing people at even earlier times. And so the thing that makes RLS work is that the performers at this time, even though they can hear me now and they can hear each other, right, Jeff? You can say something and Ellen can hear you.
Yeah. So I could talk. Hey, Alan, you hear me?
I do, Jeff. How's it going?
I'm doing great. Glad to see you.
Yeah, maybe maybe next time we'll find something more important to transmit as information. But I'm glad that both of you are great. So the important thing right now is that the first time through, people will not be hearing each other, but the second time through, we have the ability to record and then immediately share that previous recording so that the ensemble can sing the next time to what had just occurred. So what we're going to be doing then is we're going to be moving to our next song. Our next song is Moonshine Lullaby. So I'm clicking on it over here. You'll notice that in the navigation window, you can set up as many songs in your show as you wish. So I'm clicking on Moonshine Lullaby. We are on Moonshine Lullaby. What I just want to verify once again is that everyone is fine and that you're seeing that you have an unassigned track.
Let me double check that.
I'm there, and my track is unassigned.
Excellent. Great. Okay.
Actually, no, David, I am assigned. Can you just quickly
Unassign you?
share the unassignment?
Yeah. So here I go. I'm going to go to takes. The current is unassigned. I'm going to grab unassigned again. And I am going to say, okay. And then I'm going to share it. There's a share button. I just hit share. And now it's
So
unassigned.
now I'm clean. Now I'm back to the original blank slate.
Great. So here we go. I'm going to go through the process of how we go through recording. First of all, you want to pick the type of recording. So I go to Preferences under the Live Share tab. You will notice that there is the opportunity to record a stereo mix or to record individual tracks. Recording individual tracks place individual recordings on each one of the participants' computers, which can then be collated and collected later. And recording stereo mix, you can do the same thing. Currently, we're sharing with recording stereo mix, and that's what we're going to do. So I'm saying okay. And you'll notice down at the very bottom, I got to move this over so you can actually see the record light when it lights up. There's a place where we can arm the recording. So currently you can play, as long as you're in a regular rehearsal, you don't want to record, don't hit that button, and you'll just play, rehearse, move around, etc. But once I record the arming, or now we have recording armed, now we're set to go. We're ready to do the next performance, which is going to be Moonshine Lullaby. Is everybody ready in my team?
Yes.
Yep.
Ready to go.
Excellent.
All set.
Good. Okay. So without further ado, I'm checking the recording is armed, and we're going to start playing Moonshine Lullaby. You'll notice there's a slight delay. That's because we want to make sure that everything's synchronized. about this performance? Excellent. So you will have noticed, if I forgot to point it out, but there was a little recording light here showing that it was recording. And now we've captured one of our performances. I'm now going to go over to the RLS mixer window, click on the microphone, and I'm going to go down now to pick one of my takes. Now we've done a number of takes here, but fortunately the most recent one is always on the top. So I'm going to select the most recent take, which was on 10:30 at 15:18, which is 3:18. This looks like it's the correct one. I'm saying okay, and you'll notice that this has now been updated to this moonshine. I'm now going to share it with the rest of the cast. Currently, it's only sitting on my computer, but the way that RLS works is we make sure that all the computers are synchronized, they have all the same information, so that people aren't confused when they're singing back and it might be something different. So by clicking on the share button, you'll notice that it starts to upload to the internet. There's the little progress bar. It's taking that recording and sending it to the cast, and it is complete. And I just want people to verify that they did receive the update. Yes.
It's good.
Yay, everybody. Okay,
Yes, I got
excellent.
it.
So this time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit play, and we're going to listen to it. And you'll notice that without anybody singing, that there it is, the recording. I just want everyone to verify that they're actually hearing themselves. So,
Yeah, David, before you do that, just double check your reverb settings.
oh yes, right. I hit stop, so we're just going to let it stop. And down in my output, I forgot to do that, but we actually have control of a reverb mix, so I have an opportunity here to turn reverb all the way up or all the way down. In this case, since I already recorded this song with reverb, I'm going to take reverb down significantly so it's not overly compensated for. So now I've done that. I just want to verify everyone is at measure 1, beat 1. And
Yes.
Yep.
and here we go. So I'm hitting play, and now we'll hear our last performance. So here's the recording of the last performance. Everybody hearing themselves? Don't you sound like great? Okay. So I'm hitting stop. So I think this,
I sound
you
really
did
good.
sound good, David. So I think an important thing here for rehearsals, just think, we worked on RLS in order to create something for the crisis that we're all experiencing right now. But along the way, we're recognizing that RLS, even though it is designed as a rehearsal enhancement tool and a way to rehearse remotely in this time of COVID, is that it actually has features that might be powerful for you in a regular rehearsal situation. This, for example, gives you the ability to immediately record, share with your ensemble, and then you can say, hey, look, Melanie, what happened in measure 15? You didn't do a very good job. You can then go up here and type 15. I use Melanie because there is no Melanie in this particular thing, but we went right to 15. And now if I hit play, it's still synchronized. People will hear it. And you can say, here's what's going on in measure 15. Excellent. Okay. So anyway, that is one of the features that we have instituted right now. I want to point out too that RLS is a very powerful tool at the moment, but we're on a very aggressive development schedule. We started in March. Usually when we do software development, these are multi-year efforts, and we put out something that is like highly polished with all the advertising things and everything in place. There's no time for that in the time of COVID. We know we need to move forward very quickly. So we developed a different strategy. We realized that we needed to put out a bare bones tool that did just the very basic stuff, but then rapidly scaffold it to provide more and more features. So we've been since May putting out a major release every week. We intend on continuing to do so. We're very fortunate that even though RLS has been around since March, maybe at the conception, is that we're building it on the RMS platform of 20 years of development with very sophisticated delivery tools that have been designed for the theater environment. And that was the focus of our work prior to COVID. So that means that one of the next things that will be coming up is the ability to also do this with the individual tracks. But I think at this point, the third and last song we wanted to do was to highlight the most recent major revision that we did, which was to provide us with an ability to use the iPhone and the iPad, as well as regular desktop computers. So in this case, for our last song, In My Life, David John Lennon Horowitz will join us on the iPhone to perform our last number. And Ellen, I think, will be leaving. She was not part of the Fab Four. Now we're like maybe the frolicsome threesome or something, but Ellen will join us on Zoom. And after this, we will all meet back on Zoom in order to continue our discussion. Okay?
Okay,
Yes,
David, I'm on RLS on desktop right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and leave and get on my phone and use RLS on my iPhone. So don't go away, all right?
Yeah,
I'll be right back.
We will not go away. And also at this point, if someone has to leave a rehearsal, remember that I invited everyone at the beginning, but we have the ability in RLS for people to join the rehearsal in the middle. So say someone had to leave and come back, or someone arrived late, you don't have to worry about having to wait and invite them again. Once David is ready on the iPhone, then he will go ahead and ask to join the rehearsal. And there he is. So he shows up. It shows who he is, so we know whether to accept him or not. Should I decline? No, I don't think so. I think I'll accept. And here is David.
Hello.
And there is David. Notice the red bar. That means that it's working to develop a synchronization. So there it goes. And once the bar is gone, we are good. So welcome back, David.
Hi.
And what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be going to In My Life, which is David will be singing this.
I'm there.
And everybody else ready?
Yep. Yeah. Looks
Awesome.
Okay, so our final number, In My Life, starring David Horowitz.
There are places I'll remember all my life, though some have changed, some forever, not for better. Some have gone and some remain. All these places have their moments with lovers and friends I still can recall. Some are dead and some are living. In my life, I love them all. But of all these friends and lovers, there is no one compares with you. And these memories lose their meaning when I think of love as something new. Though I know I'll never lose affection for people and things that went before. I know I'll often stop and think about them. In my life, I love you more.
Excellent. And I'm stopping this performance. Nicely done, David.
Thank you.
So that concludes the concert portion of our demonstration. But before we end the RLS rehearsal at this point, I just wanted to really quickly reach out to anyone out there that might have some very specific questions about what they just saw, or something that might be useful for us to demonstrate within RLS. Otherwise, we'll just go back.
Yeah, David, I think it would be useful to start by just quickly running through the windows, like the chat window, the basic transport window.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So overall, on the left-hand side of my screen is what we call the Rehearsal Live Share. This is the transport window. You'll notice there's a navigation area. This allows you to play, to fast forward, to advance through the different songs. There's a bar here, a progress bar. And if we had done it for this show, but we have it in others, you'll notice that you can have markers. I moved to Dreams to show you that we can move around quickly by clicking on different markers that you can program. So you can put in rehearsal letters, you can put in bridges or transitions or things like that. This is a visual click. If you're using metrical information, in other words, that you've programmed meter in as well as audio, and we can talk more about that later, this provides you a little waterfall type of bouncing ball so that people can observe this if they want to use it as a metronome. If you want an audio metronome, there's also an audio metronome right here. It can be turned on and off so that people can use that for synchronization. At the bottom of this window is the mixer window. It has a parts window, and you'll notice for Dreams that we actually have 5 different parts. 3 of these have been muted because these are what we call guide tracks. They hold the melodic line for each of the different parts. So if people are practicing, they can listen to what the music should be like when they're singing or performing, or they can turn it off, of course. So there is an input for the parts and an output. This is where you can add reverb. So there are reverb, and I believe also that there's reverb here as well on the inputs.
Well, you can also, if you have a multi-channel interface connected, you'll be able to break out that signal over whatever the capabilities of that interface are. So if you have a 16-channel DA converter, you'll be able to assign independently to the first stereo output or the second stereo output, etc. And that would happen in the output, in combination with the parts window and the output tab, if you had such a device connected.
Right. And that's right down here. We only have 2 ports, so it's only going to port A. But if we had more, it would go A, B, C, D. So the other window that we have is the live show window. This is open when you're always in session, and it has a number of windows. There's what we call the director's view. This allows you to take a look at whoever you want as a director. I can shuffle through and have each person take the view. There is the mix window that I spend a lot of time on because my background is a sound engineer, so I like to fiddle with knobs, and here you can fiddle with knobs to your heart's content. There is then finally the grid view, and this is a very traditional Zoom type of environment as well. Across the bottom, you'll notice a lot of tools that are very similar to other types of web conferencing. You can stop your video, you can mute your microphone. And there's a participants. This is where you can, if I click on participants, it gives me a list of everybody that is in the session. It also gives me the opportunity to add invitations by clicking on the invite window at the bottom. Now here's a list of all the possible people that I've been working with. And we would need to see green dots here. No one else is associated with this, but this is another place that you can invite people in within the middle of a rehearsal. The next is the chat window, and on the side we have chat. Oh, I see that Steve has already been burning it up with all sorts of important information. Yes, important information. So yeah, let's just go crazy, guys, with our chat because, it's such a great new feature. So on the right are 2 more buttons that I have already worked with. The ARM recording in order to record what was done, and then the share button to share those recordings with the rest of the cast. There is an ability here to put this into full screen mode. I stay away from it, but very often, these are types of choices for people that might have decisions about how their computer works and what they want to see. Overall, that's the bulk of it. There are a number of different types of capabilities across the top in the menu bar. I think an important thing to point out is that on the top, it shows my name here, which means that I'm logged into an RLS account. Underneath it, I can pull up registration information, which provides all the information about this particular piece, the order number, when it expires, how I logged in, et cetera, et cetera. And there is also an opportunity to check, to set your status to available or do not disturb. And under tools, you can pick different shows. I'm going to show management. You'll notice I have a number of different shows that are loaded. I'm not changing what I'm loading now because we're in the middle of this, but this would be a place to pick from amongst the other shows that you may have loaded. And I think that's a real quick 30,000 overview of the different features. So without further ado, I think what I will do is end the rehearsal. We'll all join back in on Zoom, And I look forward to talking to everybody in a couple seconds. Okay, guys, thanks a lot. Good work.
See you on
Thank
Zoom.
you.
Thanks.
See you later. So I'm going to end the rehearsal by clicking the rehearsal button. And because sometimes you don't want to end the rehearsal, you hit it by mistake. We say, are you sure? So I say, yes. And off we went. So now I'm going to stop sharing. And I am back on. I'm going to check to make sure that you can hear me, unless someone can tell me they hear me right now. Sometimes.
I can hear you, and I'm back now on Zoom.
Great. Okay. So thank you. I see lots of chat. So I think we could either just work our way down through chat, Jeff, or is there?
Sure. Unless, Ellen, are you here, or have you curated this at all by any chance? Is there anything?
I've only seen questions from Walter on, since I was not on this Zoom meeting prior to that.
Okay, that is true. So let me start from the top, because I'm the only one that's been on, and Jeff has been on as well.
Right.
So I'm just going to go down through chat. If anyone has a question that wants to pop in or things like that, it's there are enough of us that if someone wants to just unmute and say hi, blah blah blah, you can do that as well. We're friendly, and this can be informal, but otherwise I'll just sort of work my way down. So Jean Nicholas says, I understand we will all have access to the recording afterwards. Yes, that's correct. The recording lives on the director's machine, and then can be shared to all the other ensemble members, but it also exists as an audio file that you can take and use in any more traditional way for audio sharing. You make it into an MP3 and put it on SoundCloud, or put a link in Dropbox and share it with other people. So we also want to make sure that the audio output that we can provide are available for all sorts of other tasks.
Yeah, just to expand on that. So right now, what we have and what David demonstrated is a stereo mix of the signal that came back to David from all the various participants. We have currently a multi-channel ability to make recordings of your session. So if you have a 20-person session and you engage multi-channel recording, you could have 20 independent stems that will just be you. And you can right now take that and put that into Logic or Pro Tools or your digital audio workstation of choice and mix it to your heart's content there. What we don't have yet is the ability to immediately share that back in the same way we can with stereo signals, but that's coming, and hopefully pretty soon, within a week or two.
Great. So I noticed that Deborah used RLS last night. Thank you. Well, I say thank you. And we're always standing by here if you have questions or things like that. We don't have the slick user manual yet because it's changing on a daily basis, but we are knowledgeable about what we're doing, and we're here to help. So Eric Poole, I was not able to get the green dots. However, some of my singers had the green dots next to their names. Those are the green dots, I think, unless maybe I'm not understanding what your question is. Eric, do you want to chime in, or?
Yes, thank you. And this is so helpful. I guess I was not able to take control of the session. I was just kind of stuck right there. As I read the instructions, I thought I was supposed to see the green dot so I would know who was in or who I could get to sing. And so perhaps I misunderstood what the green dots were telling me.
Yeah, okay, I understand what you're saying. So the green dots are there to show that they have the right show loaded, that they're active, and they're on the right application. So then what you have to do is select each one of the people with a green dot, and you can hold down the command key or shift click across them. And once they're all highlighted, then you click the invite key at the bottom. And then that sends an invitation to each of your cast members, your ensemble, and then they accept the invitation to come into the show.
Okay. I didn't go far enough. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, but that's good. I'm glad you saw the green dots. That's very encouraging. And I guess maybe we want to just be a little more specific real time about that. I think we have videos for this as well, of course, but
I mean, there's a mountain of stuff that we need to either improve or explicate in the course of a video, and other documentation and tutorials. We'll get there. It's been a massive amount of work, and we're trying to churn through it as quick as we can. I'll say that for anybody or any group that is having trouble getting going, let us know. Oftentimes, the simplest thing to do is for one of us to join in on your session and help guide it along, just to get you rolling. That can cut through a lot of very basic misunderstandings in this interim period while we're still working out the best way to do everything.
And we also rely on what you're discovering to help us improve the product. One of the things that we like very much about this is that we're actually working with our clients and our customers while we're in development, as opposed to dealing with an already created product. So as you participate and you work with us and you discover something that could make it better, then we'll certainly take that into consideration. I'll point out right now that there are lots of things we know that we can improve or add to it. And we can do it all, but we just can't do it all at the same time. So we have to pick and choose. We're a small company. We have really great developers who are doing amazing things, I think, but we can only do a certain amount at a time. So one of the most important things that we're doing at Real Time is making decisions about what are we going to implement next? What's the next most important thing? And we listen very carefully to all of you because you're the reason we're doing this. So the next is from Kathy Schneider, from one of our customers. Hi, Kathy.
Hi.
Hey there. Hey, guys. Hey, and David, your team's been really great. And I've been kind of your de facto beta tester for a lot of this and have enjoyed, working with you all as you bringing this product up. So
Thank you.
We're excited at all the fast progress. We have 115 people and we can't wait for you to get the capacity up to 115.
Well, that's actually an interesting thing. We have currently set an arbitrary 20-person limit because that's the most that we have ever been able to test in office. We understand underneath the hood that it can scale, and it can scale arbitrarily up to the ability of your computer to handle the bandwidth of the number of performers. Mm-hmm. One of the things that we're dealing with right now is that the director's computer has to be fairly sophisticated machine that has a lot of CPUs in it. But student machines or the participant machines can be much smaller. We're using without problems like 2010 MacBook Pros and things like that are 10 years old, and they're keeping up fine as students, but they probably wouldn't work for the director.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I have a quad core. I have Ethernet 500 megs plus a quad core Lenovo as the director's computer, and so far I think that seems to have enough to make it work.
Yeah, you have quad core, you're going to be in really good shape. One thing you can do with the Lenovo is you open Task Manager and you look, I think it's Task Manager, I'm a Mac person, and you can see how much CPU percentage RLS is taking. And you have a quad core, and if you have two virtual threads in each of those cores, you could get up theoretically to 800% without running into problems. Wow. But we're also happy to push the envelope and see if we can get it higher. We have some other ideas that may be a little bit further down the road where you can actually scale this up to thousands and thousands of people, but don't don't expect that quite yet.
Understood. And actually, just to get back to my quick questions,
sure.
we actually are a MIDI file only crowd right now, and okay. I know that you all are. When you created the RLS standalone app, that it requires MP3. Do you know about when that's going to be accessible for someone who has a show only in MIDI?
I know that's high on our list, and I'm going to defer to Jeff.
Right. Well, there are two stages to that. The first and simplest component is that we're going to have a export from RMS Coach to RLS, which will just take your MIDI data and convert it into a form where you can use it within RLS.
Oh, that sounds good. Will it convert it to MP3? Is that the way you're going to do it?
It won't be MP3. It will be a proprietary audio format that we use. MP3 is supported, by the way. MP3 is supported as well as WAV for anything that you create from scratch. But when it's coming from RMS Coach, it'll be in this format that's a little bit easier for us to handle. And then, so in short order, you're going to have the core abilities in the standalone RLS app while using your MIDI data as the source. Now, the longer term plan is to build in native MIDI functionality into the RLS app, which is coming. That's just going to take a little while. We made a decision recently, for those who have been following us, You may know that we started originally in the spring by launching it with RMS Coach, which is our MIDI program. And then a month or so later, we added it to RMS Mix, which is our standard audio program. And as we were doing that work in the first half of the summer, we recognized that we were just facing a lot of challenges in terms of anytime we added some new feature, we were potentially breaking something that we developed last year or 2 years ago. The effort to maintain backwards compatibility was really slowing us down. So we decided to break it off and create this standalone RLS app, which would give us the ability to focus more specifically on the RLS functionality without having to worry about all the backwards compatibility of the other apps. And we think that's going to allow a much faster development process.
Yeah, I'm sure it will.
And my second question, which you've already answered, is when is the iOS app coming out? And I see it. I've actually just logged into it and I can't see my show, but that's because it's only in MIDI format. So I assume as soon as you develop that functionality for exporting from RMS Coach into RLS, then I can get it onto my iPad and iPhone versions as well?
Correct.
And in fact, you don't even have to wait for us. You can take the output of RMS Coach and record it and then transfer that as an MP3 right into RLS right now.
Okay, it's within RMS Coach?
I'm optimistic we're going to have the export to RLS functionality by next week. So you don't have long to wait.
Oh, great. Perfect. Thanks, guys.
Yep, and we were very excited about getting the iPhone out. I think that is one of the things that was great for me was watching David perform and spinning around, because all of a sudden you're no longer tethered to your webcam that's on your machine and stuck in the normal Zoom situation. I know Zoom also has iPhone support, but I've just been thinking since that came out of all the performance opportunities of being able to do choreography with iPhones and dancing and whatever, but I leave that to you. So let's see, the next thing is from Walter Daglish, who says, good choice. Okay.
Thank you. I will underscore the point that David touched upon briefly for Walter, because he had emailed earlier in the day about whether or not there could be guide tracks to go along with the backing tracks. I just want to make it clear that you have full capability to upload a multi-channel backing track, which is to say, maybe one of those tracks is the instrumentation, and then you've got 4 or 5 vocal guide tracks, which is what we did in Dreams, and that could serve as the basis for what your cast or your students is performing to in the beginning. And then, of course, you can mute that. You can make your part stand out prominently in the mix so it's easier to follow and bring the other ones down. And then that could be your starting point. And later on, once you've captured an initial performance run, then you can use that as your basis for further rehearsal.
Right. So Brian asked, who is playing the backing track? And so when I think of play I can think of play as in 2 different ways. Either I'm the musician performing it, or I'm the person that's hitting the play button. I'm assuming that you mean who is the musician performing it. And I think in RLS, the answer, and this will answer another question that I sort of saw further down, is that you can upload any audio into RLS and use it as your backing track. You could use your symphony orchestra. You could find royalty-free audio on the internet and use that. You can get your rehearsal pianist to play something in and then upload it as the particular song. And for Tim asks, do the singers hear a click or the others singing? So I think that this is actually a great question because it gets right to the gist of our strategy in terms of how to use RLS and how it's deployed. The very first time through, the singers do not hear the others singing if they're singing simultaneously. And this has to do with just the nature of public IP latency. What we know is that latency which is the length of time it takes for a sound to propagate until it is heard, is something that we deal with all the time in the traditional world, in that we musicians want to hear things with no latency, but we're used to having some latency. If you're in a choir and people are 40 feet apart, the people far stage left and the people far stage right have about 40 milliseconds of latency, and yet they can still sing together. The reason for that is because you have a conductor up there with a baton or their hand, and they're providing information, and that information travels visually at the speed of light. So everybody's receiving it at I don't even want to do that calculation, since light travels 186,000 miles a second. It doesn't take very long for that baton to get to someone, even if they're in the back of the choir, even if they're playing the timpani part. We also know in symphony orchestras that timpani players have to anticipate the downbeat because they know that they need that to arrive at the correct time. And musicians learn to anticipate this. I think another place where we see latency is on pipe organs, when organists have to press the key and then there's a little latency and out it comes. We can compensate for those because those latencies are known. But in the internet, the latencies are unknown. I could be arriving to each of you. I'm talking, each of you are hearing me, but each of you are hearing me at a slightly different time. This could be as much as Zoom tries to get it under 100 milliseconds, but it could be as much as 250 milliseconds. That's a quarter of a second. We know for musicians that if you are trying to perform with someone and they're arriving in your ears at latencies that are more than about 30 seconds, it falls apart. There is no way with modern IP internet speeds to be able to get the latency down to 30 milliseconds. The latency, in fact, is generally 150, 250 milliseconds, which makes it impossible. Which means that if Ellen was singing and David was hearing Ellen sing, Ellen's voice would not get to David for 150 or 250 milliseconds after he sang, and Ellen's voice wouldn't get to David until 250 milliseconds after Ellen sang, which means that both people think the other person is singing in the past, and they are going to try to slow down so that they can align with them. This is just standard psychoacoustics. I'm sorry I got a little more lengthy about this latency, but we've been thinking about this a lot. The solution to this is we just shut them down. We shut the other people singing down while we're in performance mode. The singers do hear, however, the backing track, and the backing track they will sing to will synchronize as it arrives to us. And they could, if they wish, also hear a click track as long as we have provided metrical information. And I can talk more about that later. But I think that answers Tim's question perhaps more than he ever wanted me to answer.
I was actually doing that when we were performing Moonshine, because I felt like I could use a little help with the sort of slightly relaxed orchestrational arrangement there. I wanted to get a clear click, so I had that in my headphones as I was performing.
Right, and I believe that Jean-Nicolas also, each performer is not able to hear the others in sync with their own performance, which is correct. But the second time through, you can hear the last performance. And I know that choral directors or whatever are thinking, but wait a second, I wanted them to be more active on this downbeat and to stress this accent. This is sort of the way that rehearsals start, right? You start, it's ragged, and then you put it together iteratively over time. It gets better and better. So even though you aren't hearing what the other people are hearing at that time, you're slowly, as the performance improves, converging on whatever your platonic essence of the ideal performance is, which means that as you move through the rehearsal, the recordings become successively more and more artistic and precise to what you want. I think at the moment with the stereo mix recording, you have the choice of them hearing it, a particular take or not. Once we have the individual stem recordings, you can actually pick the good performances and share those and not share the others and slowly build what you think is a really good performance. Along the way, the ensemble members start to get the feeling that they're singing with other people. Even though they're singing with the last performance or whatever, it's really pretty amazing the way it works, and that it congeals into the semblance that here I am singing with all these other people and I feel supported. Anyway, we look forward to seeing how this works and to continue to tweak that up. Let's see. So I think we answered CJ Redden, Leota, which is this will work with your own tracks. Yes, it will. And we provide RLS as a feature. If you book in a traditional way an RMS show, RLS is part of what you're given for that, and it's free. If you are using your own tracks, then we get into having to create a creator account so that you can create your own materials. And then that's where the funding comes in. And I'm going to step back, Jeff. This might be a good time to talk.
Yeah, sure. So the business model, the way it works is you can use it to your heart's content, free of charge, locally. So if you want to just play around with it on your own home computer and get a sense of what it's like to assemble a song or assemble a show and get a feel for what it's like to play it back and use it within the confines of your own home or your own office, you do it to your heart's content. The point at which you want to start sharing it with others and using it in the RLS context, that's when we're going to ask you to pay a modest fee. We think it's a modest fee. And that fee is subscription based, and it's $9.95 a month or $99.99 per year.
Let's clarify, $9.95, not $995.
Yeah, actually, I think it's $9.99 per month. $99.99 per year. You know, let's just call it $10 or $100. And I have to be honest, I don't know if we're going to be able to hold to those prices. We established these prices before we implemented RLS, and I don't yet know what the full ramifications of the cost structure once we have a more of a critical mass of people sending files back and forth and using it at the same time. But for the moment, this is what we have publicized and what I've agreed to. So, you know, at least until the new year, I'm going to commit to this pricing structure, and then I'll see where we're at.
Yeah, and I don't even want to predict there. It's hard to know, but we haven't gone through optimization yet. We have lots of ways of being able to limit bandwidth. These are, I feel in my heart that this is probably a reasonable base license, but I'm only speculating here, and I'm told not to speculate very much. So at least in public. Let's see. So let me just work our way down. So the microphone situation, this is, I think, a really important question. I'm sure everyone here is familiar with the term GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. So we can produce pristine audio recordings and with no loss of signal degradation from the recording. But if you have a bad mic, you're going to have a bad recording. However, in this day and age, you can get very highly reasonable recordings from built-in microphones, from off-the-shelf USB microphones. And in fact, we recommend sometimes that you actually use the built-in microphone on the computer itself. I think an important thing that you'll notice, or maybe you didn't, is that it's critical in RLS that you're wearing headphones because of the fact that we are allowing all audio to go through and travel back. If you start to get your backing tracks into your vocal track, then you get into a blend, you get into phase issues, you get into all sorts of echo and issues based on latency. And so we require the headphones, and you would hear it if you have one person that doesn't have a headphone on and is using speakers, you'll hear this echo of the director and things coming back.
I'm going to throw in a very specific use case since it's new. As David mentioned, we just released the first iOS version earlier in the week. Now, iOS users are very fond of using AirPods and Bluetooth headphones. In fact, I would wager that most people use those these days. They won't work in this context. You either the Bluetooth headphones are, the microphone on those Bluetooth headphones are designed around speech, and they have a kind of a poor quality input signal. I think it's around 8K. It's just not suitable to music. So what you either need to do is you need to have a plugged in headphone with one of the Apple adapters that allows you to plug into one of the more modern iPhones, or you need to have a wired headphone. If you try to just go with Bluetooth headphones, you'll have problems. There'll be syncing problems and sound problems. It's just not ready for prime time.
And I think, just clarify for me, Jeff, because I think I'm 99% sure if someone wears AirPods with the iPhone, is that doable? But it would be using the microphone in it on the iPhone?
I mean, you could wear iPhones to listen, but the second you want to sing along, you're dealing with that inferior mic that's embedded into the AirPods, and it's going to cause problems. I mean, it's one of the strange things. I mean, this is true on desktop Macintosh too, by the way, but the difference on Macintosh on desktop is that they allow you to switch the microphone input to the internal mic on the MacBook, which solves the problem. By contrast, on iPhones, they don't let you do that. On iPhones, once you have Bluetooth headphones connected, you are stuck using the microphone on those Bluetooth headphones, and those Bluetooth headphone microphones just aren't very good.
I'll pipe in a little bit about this, being the person who uses AirPods all the time. I have found that the AirPods, the internal mic, gives you more latency than you would see with anything else I've tried it with. I have used them as well with the desktop version, using the computer's internal mic. That's okay. There's a little bit of latency. In terms of the phone version, if you have the headphones that came with the phone, they're fine. Even the mic on that, it's kind of fine. So do with that what you will.
Great. Thank you, Ellen.
You're welcome.
So I'm just going to work my way down did I finish? Did I finish microphones?
I think so.
I think so. Anyway, we have
the better the sound.
Yeah, also we have a variety of microphone recommendations on the website. So if you want to see mics that we've tested or headphones or things like that, computer things like that, we do provide some information there. And of course, we're always happy to discuss these things with you as well. I'll point out also, I think at this point with microphones, that because of the fact that RLS is not only a web conferencing application, but it's also a music production tool, it means that there's a slightly higher learning curve than just in Zoom. Zoom doesn't really care what microphone you use, because all it wants to do is to make sure that the words that you say are understood by the people that are also in the meeting. And that means, I'm sure that you've all heard Zoom where people talk, or they break up, or they turn into robots, or they start bleeping. I sort of like the ones where they freeze and then the person continues to talk, and Zoom gets it in, it catches up, but then it crams everybody's voice into like half the time, and it sounds like one of those disclaimers at the end of an advertisement on late night TV. And so that's the thing that we have to be very careful about. Once again, it doesn't matter how good the microphone is or how much the quality is of what we send. If the person performing is overdriving the microphone, they have the input gain too loud and it's clipping the signal, or it's not loud enough and it's hardly in the mix, that's a place that people need a little bit more support. So we recognize there's a touch more, but certainly not nearly as much as you would if you were doing any kind of recording studio or other type of work. Let's see, but any USB microphone, I think that there might be a couple that we've had issues with. They're on our known issues page, but practically any USB microphone with a plug and play or any kind of D to A converter that you have that would take a regular microphone and convert it to go into the computer can be used. We have things ranging, I can't quite reach it, but from like $30 adapters. And I'm sure that David Horowitz has some amazing piece of digital audio sitting down there with multiple channels that he's going through. So we support the built-in microphone up to the most expensive microphones that are available. Let's see. So I thought I saw, yeah. So Julie Smith asked about a cappella, and I think that's a really good question. We actually have a performance that we did that I worked with, which was an a cappella piece.
Yeah, I could bring that up.
And
I mean, the important thing to understand with this is there has to be some synchronizing source. In what we showed you, the synchronizing source was always a backing track of one form or another. In a cappella, the synchronizing source is going to be a basic rhythm click. And I can show you a quick example of that. I'm going to share screen. And I'll just share my desktop, and I'll make sure.
Yep, turn those buttons on.
Optimize video clip. And I'll go to the Sing We Enchanted. Can people see this?
Yep.
Okay, let's see how we do.
Okay, so in terms of phrasing, guys, we're going to do 4 measure phrases. Sometimes some of you are carrying over and others are breaking or breathing. It's okay to just do where the periods are. So we're going to do Sing We Enchanted, While Love Doth Grant It, breath. Fa la 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 la. Breath, fa la la la. And Chris, I'm changing my mind on measure 6. Don't break there. Make sure that your bass, your octave leap is solid and in time. And if you breathe, it might be a little bit late. Yeah.
Right. So if we're all ready, I'm going to rewind to the top, and here we go.
Sing we and the chant it, while love doth grant it. La 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 la. All things invite us now to delight us. La 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 la. Not long youth lasteth, and old age hasteth. Now is best leisure to take a pleasure. La 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 la. Hence carry packing, no mirth be lacking. Let's spare no treasure to live in pleasure. La 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 la.
All right. So let me get out of screen share. Okay, should be back to normal now.
Yes, we are. Great. So I think the important part, if you had listened very carefully, you would hear a little like click, click, click at the very top, which was sort of the count-in for the performers. And then they did have guide tracks underneath behind, because not only do we want to worry about being metrically precise, we also have to worry about drift, pitch drift. And so people that ensembles that are working with each other have a tendency of coalescing because they're hearing each other. If you're not, you might have a tendency, some people might float a little sharp or float a little flat. So anyway, what we feel that the way this works is the first time in a cappella, you have guide tracks that allow the people to hear what their melodic lines are. But then once you have the recording, you replace the guide tracks with the actual recording. Now they're singing a cappella with all the other members of the group. Once again, the second time through.
All right, so next question.
Okay, this is Dee Dee Jackson. Are takes usable for playing back? The next run through is the backing track only captured if you choose to capture in stereo. I asked because it would be nice to be able to further tweak the individual files later if you end up liking a particular take you captured.
Okay, and Dee Dee indicates that the question's answered.
Yes, but I think also right now you can do it. You can record the individual tracks. The ensemble members can then email them to you. You can assemble all the different takes and all the different tracks, and you can do this outside of the rehearsal so that the time you come back to the next rehearsal, you can provide new backing tracks of all the different performers with their best performance. I mean, there are a lot of techniques, and a lot of this is best practice that hasn't been developed yet because we're still trying to figure out how this thing is going to work. So, you know, people that come up with good ideas or suggestions or things like that, we're always delighted to hear from the people that are using it on the ground.
All right, so next question, are we developing an Android version? Yes, that's going to be a bigger project. It's because of the variability on Android platform, it's not quite as straightforward a task as Apple, where you can expect consistency across the equipment. And in tandem with that, we get the question a lot, will there be a Chromebook version? Yes to that too, but it is going to be a big task, and it's a little bit further down the list from some of the other things we're working on.
So Julie then says you would use vocal learning tracks as the backing if it's just voice. Yeah, I think that that's the way to do it. I mean, you could use it. You could. I have a person I'm working with that's a flute player, and so she's working with flute consorts. She's a professor, and what she did is that she provided backing tracks of her own performance for each of the backing tracks in flute, and then they would have those, and then the students would play along and then turn off their own backing track. So I think this could be you singing backing tracks or a performance of backing tracks, however you want to pick it. And of course, I'm more than happy to discuss further how we explore what is the best way to, for example, deliver an a cappella performance within the rehearsal environment. Let's see. I need a troubleshooting guide for connecting students. Some can't seem to get connected or have the yellow dot. Yeah, I actually do have some troubleshooting that I worked out for Collegium. I know we have known issues. And Deborah, do you want to be a little more precise here, or?
Well, listen, I will say that we are continuing to refine. And, one of the recent ideas we have is to have a very kind of a simple, call it a pre-flight checklist of what you want to check to make sure you have in place before you get the session rolling. With everything we do, we find that we chip away at the what are the confusions, and we think we solve one, and then we discover that two more have popped up in its place. So it's a little bit we'll get there, but we're at this point hacking our way through the forest with the machete. I will say, I'll reiterate something I said a little bit earlier, which is if you're having, especially if you're having consistent problems, let's do this together. Get on the phone with somebody from the RMS staff, let somebody from the RMS staff to be part of your session so that we can attack the problems in real time.
And yeah, we are delighted to talk with any of you that are exhibiting these, because if you're having the problem, then someone else is probably having the problem, and we want to solve it. Let's see. So Millie Turek says, for an ensemble or cast of high school performers, what are the computer and mic requirements on their end? I'm going to allow someone else to answer that. It is on the page, but
yeah, I put a link to the Getting Started page there. That's the place to go for most of this stuff. Like the Getting Started page, if you haven't looked at it yet, go there. It's going to answer a lot of questions to get you up and running as quickly as possible. Make sure to read the whole thing before you start.
I'll generalize it by saying that the microphone that is built into the iPhone and Macintosh and most but not all Windows machines, those microphones are pretty good. And they're going to be perfectly serviceable for an RLS-ish session. You can do better. You can get an external mic and have a better sound. But in terms of just kind of what you need to get moving, that's going to do the job.
Right, and these are electret condenser microphones for the most part. It's amazing how much quality you can get in a modern microphone from what it was like 20 years ago. Let's see. David's voice going on the red with his iPhone, any control? Yes. So I'll talk briefly as a sound designer here. There are a number of gain stages that audio travels through. And along the way, each of those gain stages needs to be set for an optimum performance. I think that some of the red on our meters is actually fine. And I think that what we need to do is to readjust the color coding, because red generally means danger. In this particular case, as long as they're red, but it's not touching the top of that bar, then there is no clipping. But I have a control post, David, and I can adjust his volume level to take it lower. And that's some of the things that I was doing on the microphone. And David himself also, though, has an input gain adjustment that would also need to be set as well. I think that answers the question, but if you have anything else, or did I not answer? I just want to make sure I'm
We got a lot of questions to go through, so why don't we try to plow through. Sing together with no backing.
You skipped Diana's, which is
I'm sorry.
Can the director actually conduct?
You want to take that, David?
Sure. Once again, the director is hearing things after they happen, maybe 150, maybe a tenth of a second to a quarter of a second later, which means that their ictus will be happening a tenth of a second to the performer after the student sings, and the student will therefore think that they are singing early, and they'll want to speed up to catch up with the conductor. So this means that for the same reason that we can't have performers talk with each other or hear each other while they're performing, the conductor cannot do that. However, one of the things that we're working on right now is the ability to not only share audio, but to share video. And in that case, your backing track, when that occurs, could be a video of you conducting, and then the students are listening to the backing track and watching someone conduct. We have some other ideas about serialization of the signal, so that right now everyone is singing at the same time and it's in parallel. But imagine that in one of our songs that David started singing, he only heard himself in the backing track, but that combined audio file then went to Steve, and now Steve is hearing David plus the backing track, and then that went to Ellen, and now Ellen is hearing Steve plus David, and that's the backing track, and so on. And so if that's the situation, I can envision an environment with serialization, and we do not have this yet, but it is certainly on our list, where you can record, or you're not recording. You might be in a room with the choral conductor and the rehearsal pianist. They're separated enough with social distancing, so you're not dealing with COVID issues, or they might be in separate rooms in the same building where they have no latency. The conductor conducts the pianist, and then that is sent by serial to your ensemble members, and then the ensemble members are singing to live conducting. The thing you cannot do at this point, however, is that conductor cannot hear the end result, because the end result, once again, is going to be a quarter second later, 300 milliseconds later, and we get into that whole latency thing. We wish that we could give you the holy grail of what we all want, which is that amazing experience of a conductor in the same room with people singing their hearts out and coming up with a performance. But the physical realities are that we have to come up with a different process. And along with this process, we think we're also providing additional powerful tools that will help you in your rehearsals even after COVID is over.
The next two are related. The question statements, sing together with no backing and click track. Bottom line is, no, you can't sing together with, there's got to be some kind of synchronizing source, whether it's just a click or some other backing track. So a free form experience is not going to work. You need to have at minimum a click track.
Unless, of course, you're doing sound mask compositions or Pauline Oliveras or, something where meter and synchronization doesn't matter, then there's a whole realm of ideas or opportunities you can do in the world of avant-garde.
To Millie's question, does original material still need to be submitted as MIDI? No. For several months now, actually, we've allowed for standard audio backing. It used to be in the RMS Mix platform. Now it's in the standalone RLS app. You can upload multi-channel WAV files or multi-channel MP3s and use that as your synchronizing source and your backing track.
So I can answer Brian's.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Brian, we're dealing with laws of physics here. As long as the latency is going to be 200 milliseconds, a quarter of a second, or something like that, I just do not see how we would be able to allow the performers to hear each other live, with the exception of what I would call the downstream serialization latency, where performers can hear other performers that are performing live after they sang by putting them in an order, so that one person sings and then the next person hears that, and then the third person hears the two people. but otherwise we can't travel back in time. And so I just don't see a time until internet protocol speeds bring us up to where you can get the latency down to 20 milliseconds.
Or more importantly, where internet handling is done consistently everywhere. Because the problem isn't so much that you can't have a fast internet experience. The problem is that everybody will have a slightly different method of accessing the internet and handling that signal through their internet service provider. So some will go through one set of routers and buffers, and the other one will go through something different. And one person will be a quarter second late, one person will be a third second late. And that inconsistency is what leads to the impossibility of being able to have a realistic music making experience through traditional means over the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Where was I?
So Michael Farrell is asking, what does the user, not the conductor, have to control manage during a session in regards to participating? So he's asking about the participants' experience, Jeff.
They control, so again, in the first round, the participants are only hearing the backing track and the director. The director is capable of giving feedback in real time. So the director could say, hey, Linda, you're going flat, watch the pitch. That can happen in real time. Then after that first round, the audio file can be shared back so that the full mix can be part of what is used for the next go around with the rehearsal. And in particular, once we do have the multi-channel sharing in place, the participant can adjust the relative components of that multi-channel mix. So if the participant wants to, let's say the participant is a second tenor, I usually sing second tenor, and then there's I'm getting fed back to me soprano 1, soprano 2, alto, and bass and baritone. I might want to bring the soprano way down. Might want to mute the baritone altogether. I might want to pan the alto. These are the kinds of things that you'll be able to do on the participant side to make it a more customized and helpful experience as you're going forward. You can also add click. You can do, there are miscellaneous other things that you can do, but those I think are the main ones.
Hi, so I'm Christy. I'm going to speak on behalf of Michael because he had to step into another meeting. We are actually working with a group of senior citizens, and so we're hoping that this is going to be like something that is very user-friendly on their behalf. And so that's why he was curious about like how much do they actually have to manage? Like our Zoom rehearsals, just getting them to unmute themselves is already a bit of a hassle. So if you could like just go through more like how easy of an option is this for them?
Well, it is a process. I'm not going to pretend that there's nothing to it. And I know, the older generation who with less experience working with technologies, it's a little bit more of a challenge than it is when working with millennials who grew up with it and it's second nature. We have worked with a lot of older users. Sometimes we have to kind of walk them through it very carefully. The process is, on its face, not much to it. I mean, you gotta download a program. So there's a certain amount of technical savvy associated with simply downloading a program. And then there's a certain amount of technical savvy associated with creating an account. In this sense, it's not that different than probably a lot of things they've already experienced, whether it's shopping on Amazon or working with other programs. But
yeah, I'm their IT person, so I totally get like that portion of it.
Yeah. So, but I do know that can sometimes be a stumbling block. But so that's something you will face. There, you got to download the program. You got to sign up for an account. You've got to download the specific show, which is really more of a function of on the director's side. The director creates and shares a show, and then the user just needs to click a link. From there, it could be as simple as that. Now, there's more you can do. There's more in terms of adjusting your mix and changing volumes and changing sounds in certain instances, but it's not necessary. So on the most basic level, we feel it's pretty easy. We feel it's as easy as anything you're going to find. which is not to say that you're not going to run into frustrations. You probably will, but we'll
Oh,
help
totally.
you. But we'll help you every step of the way.
Right. And I think also that the more that we develop this, the easier it will become. And my take is for these type of people that they have hardly know what a computer is. They probably don't even know what a webcam is, or that they even have a webcam. But if they have an iPhone and they can get a pair of headphones, not Bluetooth, but headphones, and can use the microphone, I think it will be a fairly seamless and easy experience for them, because they put the headset on. They have to go to the App Store and download the iPhone app. You send the invitation to them. They know when their rehearsal is. They have their app open. The invitation comes out. They hit accept, and then they're sitting there on the iPhone and then performing from the iPhone.
And then when we send them back the track, so that way they can end up hearing all the other vocalists that obviously it would be the second time through, is that something that they need to press play then?
Nope.
Or is that something that is on the conductor's side?
Everything.
The director controls that. The user can change it if they want it. This is where I get into the things that you could do after the fact that makes it a little bit more sophisticated. But
Yeah.
at its most basic level, the director is always in control.
And I think a nice thing, though, is that once you're done with the RLS session, then the control is given back to the performer. So if that person wants to practice between rehearsals, they'll have the RLS with the recording, with the most recent, whatever it is that you shared with them. They hit play, they're hearing the performance, they can sing along with that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right. So I know we're pushing our luck in terms of people's time. I apologize. We're going to try to crank through as many of these questions as we can. Where did we leave off?
I was with, I'm looking to Gibson and Deborah. Thanks for answering, Michael and Brian. Oh, and it's Dee Dee Jackson. Hi, Dee Dee. These are timeline questions, Jeff. When do you anticipate offering the ability for session leader to receive separate videos as well as the audio of what is captured for further optimization?
Well, I'll tell you, we are hard at work on it. It's one of our developers is on it full time and has been on it full time for close to a month, I think. It's not a trivial task. I'm hesitant to give an actual date about when it's ready, but I can tell you that it's a priority, and we want it as fast as possible.
And for your second one, I anticipate participants will be able to use iOS 2 days ago.
Yes.
But that it's going to take us a little bit longer to do with Android and Chrome. One of the advantages of iOS is that it's integrated into the Apple universe, and therefore there's a lot of overlap between the way that iOS handles events and the way that Mac OS X handles events. So we were able to make that transition relatively seamlessly. I mean, not seamlessly, but much easier than the fact that on the other side of the world, we have Windows, which most of the non-Macintosh desktops are, but in the world of mobile devices and things like that, we have Google. They have a completely different ecosystem, and we have to figure out the Google Android ecosystem, and they have different types of ways that they interact with the internet, different drivers, different libraries. So it's going to be a more difficult task. We recognize it as a very important task, but it is going to take us a little bit of time to get that out. But for now, go to iOS and you can do it.
I think this next question is a big one that probably will be on the minds of many. Are all the participants subscribers? And if so, is it mandatory for them to pay monthly to participate? The answer is no. Only the director has to be a subscriber. Or I should put it this way. Only people who want to lead RLS sessions are required to pay. Students, cast members, choristers, all the people that are going to be participants on those sessions, it's free to them. So it's no charge to the people you're working with.
The place where you would start to add additional licensing requirements is if you want to do simultaneous breakout rehearsals with session leaders or things like that. Say you're an SATB choir and you want to say, okay, sopranos, you're going to break out in this room while the tenors are rehearsing over there. You would need 2 licenses because you're running 2 simultaneous rehearsals. Over and above that, though, these are of arbitrary size, up to 20 until we increase it. But that's the funding model. And I think it's similar to Zoom. In Zoom, anyone can get a free account and you can actually run a Zoom session, but only for 40 minutes.
Okay. I see Alan Patrick Kenny is here. Hi, Alan. What is the recording quality sample rate? It's really up to your computer. So you can record 48K, 96, 96K, 24-bit, 32-bit float. All of that is possible. It's just a matter of what your internal computer sound drivers are capable of processing and delivering. From our point of view, we're agnostic, and we want to give you guys the ability to create the best sound you want, or you can.
Certainly what we want is for this to also be considered, it is a rehearsal tool, but it's also sort of a production tool. And we want people that have the necessary professional equipment to be able to record and end up with product that is professional recording studio quality. Therefore, we support that. I think another advantage to the individual tracks is that the stereo tracks that we're receiving and sharing at the moment come over the internet, and we prioritize the quality of audio, but there can be times where there's a bit of a dropout, where there's something, a glitch, a hiccup, or other types of things. But even at that time, if you're in the individual track recording, they're laying down these tracks on their own computer, not completely outside of the internet, and therefore the audio quality is pristine. It's uncompressed if you decide to use WAV format or other uncompressed formats, and you can end up with studio quality recordings.
So moving on, yes, RLS is a separate download from Coach and Mix. We did that, as I mentioned earlier, to create a demarcation point to be able to develop RLS faster. Is it possible to do a full band rehearsal with vocalists and instrumentalists? Yes. We don't care about what the musical source is. It's the same process. You need to have some kind of backing track. We have a demo elsewhere where we show this with a small a string trio or string quartet. I won't take time on that now, but it's there on our website. And you can have any instrumentalist. David's working with a flute ensemble, and we know it's been being used with jazz ensembles right now.
Right. I think the important thing to recognize is that we are, just as we're agnostic to what's in the backing track, we're agnostic to what kind of audio comes into it. You can do crumb horn consorts or bagpipes or, I don't know, marbles rolling or whatever. As long as you can put a microphone on it and it needs some kind of synchronization, you'll be able to do that performance. Instrumentalists have a slightly different type of a situation in that you might have, say you're a harpsichordist. I'm working with a bunch of a collegium doing early music. And so the harpsichord player has the microphone on the harpsichord, which is, of course, where they want it to be. But when they talk, they have to talk into the harpsichord because of the harpsichord microphone. So there has to be a recognition that when you're singing, your instrument is the same as your talking voice. You may be you talk at a lower volume, but it's the same voice, the same direction. But as soon as you have an instrument, the instrument itself, and now I'm speaking as a sound designer, would have a different type of microphone than a vocal microphone in many cases. My personal take on this also is that in this modern age of technology, that musicians, students that want to be professional musicians need to develop certain levels of technological competencies just to survive in wherever the world of music in the future is going to take us. But that's my own soapbox. Let's see.
So, browsing ahead to new questions. Want to develop a concert on Zoom. I did one 2 weeks ago and discovered that Zoom changes the frame of the images and the frequencies of the voices. I guess that tool would allow me to solve these problems. Yes. The quality of image and sound with this session is very nice. Thank you. This is, again, something we're working on making it better. We're working on being able to capture MP4 audio streams in addition to just the audio. So the MP4 has both, high quality visual as well as the audio, and that will make it easy, to see it live within the Zoom context, but also to assemble it into a more sleekly produced video montage.
Okay, I am the one who asked the question. So it's not been tried so far. Like I am a singer, I perform with my guitar, and I do some virtual concerts for maybe 20, 25 people. And we're trying to develop that in Quebec now for the residency for older people. They're providing them some iPads and teaching them. So you think it would be an option because Zoom is not so good, regular Zoom, but with your program, you think it would be suitable for that type of project?
Yes. Once we have it together, I'm just rereading your message. So it was 2 weeks ago that you did the concert, or 2 weeks from now? Okay.
2 weeks ago.
It depends on when you're doing your next one, whether or not we'll have it in time.
In December.
December, I think that's possible. Just as it happens, our main programmer is also in Montreal. So he may take a special hometown encouragement to make sure it happens for you.
But I understand you also give support.
Support is a big component of our company philosophy. We want you to have an excellent experience with our products, and we want you to we don't want you to struggle and feel frustrated when things happen. We want you to get in touch with us so we can help you get to the bottom of it quickly and then move on in a good course.
So it could be an option. I pay for 1 month, and I try over that month, and if it works, then I buy for the year. But
Sure. Yeah. Well, we recommend that people take advantage of the 2-week offer to see if it's for them. And if it is, go ahead and make a subscription. People can do it on a monthly or an annual. We'll be there. We'll be there for you.
Oh, very nice.
And I'm very interested in pushing the envelope on what it can do. Whenever we get feature requests or things from people that want to do something new, it's like, oh, this is really cool. But we have to make a decision of where it is in the list of other pressing features that we could add to this. But I think what you're talking about is very important.
So I'm skipping over repeat questions. I'm landing on prices for educational institutions. When do you think you might be able to get to 40 people? So first of all, about educational pricing, and I have gotten this question a bunch. It's kind of in the back of my mind of what it might mean, especially as I factor it into our general costs of what since I don't really have a sense of the full expenses of what it's going to take to run this when it's at scale. At the moment, we believe that the $9.99 a month or $99.99 per year is a modest price. And if, depending on how many people want to use it at your educational institution, if it's 5 or 10, and you just have to multiply that by the number of people who need to use the program, I think you're still getting a good deal. I'll reevaluate that as we consider prices going forward, but that's where we stand right now. And the second part of the question, when will we be able to get up to 40 people? Well, theoretically, you can do it right now. As David mentioned, the only thing that's stopping us is that we haven't personally tested it because we haven't been able to get together the group to be able to prove it. From our point of view, the change is simply taking one line of code and changing the number from 20 to 40. We're happy to work with anybody who wants to try that, who wants to push the envelope a little bit and try. I would maybe try it in steps, maybe first try 25 and then try 30. But anyone who wants to push it with a larger group, just talk to us and we'll make a special build for you so you can give it a shot. We're as curious as you, and we would love to be able to announce with full confidence that it works with larger numbers. We've just been reluctant to do it until we've been able to personally do it. So just get in touch if you want to try a larger group, and we'll see how it goes. Know, of course, that the larger the group, the more powerful a computer you're going to need. So if we're demanding a 4-core computer right now, it might turn out that you need a 6-core computer or an 8-core computer when you're working with 40 people. We just don't know. We haven't tested it. But talk to us. We'd love to work with you on it.
Is there someone, I turned myself on here for a second. Is there someone in particular from your group that would be best for me to contact? I'm at a university where we've got technology students who would probably be interested in trying to play with this for our jazz groups, for my choir, for chamber orchestra, for our percussion ensemble, all kind. We're looking for something like this so we can at least rehearse and get tracks good enough that we can put virtual things out. So I just don't know who is the best person to email.
You know, you just call. If it's you can either email us through our main contact form, and Ellen, maybe you can put that link into the chat. But I will say again, you know, we're a small company, and if you call us, anybody who answers the phone is going to be able to help you. So it's you know, you just say what you want to do. Everyone's going to know what the issue is, and they're going to be able to put it in motion for you.
And I've been doing a lot of work.
You.
I've been doing a lot of work with schools, colleges, universities, and things like that for exactly this type of thing. So I'd be more than happy to meet with your technology people, do introductions. Okay. I mean, the rest of real time as well, but I've sort of taken some of that upon myself. So we'll work it out. Give RMS a call, and then we'll set up the appropriate sessions and reach out. I think we also are planning on doing this type of a demonstration or discussion more frequently, and some of those will probably be tech tips for RLS or bringing together a bunch of the technology people. We recognize there's a lot of support. We will support everything that has to do with the intricacies of RLS and stuff. But if you have people on the ground that can deal with, this is how you hook a microphone into your computer, and this is how you make sure that you have administrative access, and those basic types of audio as well as computer-based technologies, and you can deal with that part, that means that we can focus more on those parts that are specific to RLS. And I'd be more than happy to bring these people up to speed with providing that support so we don't have to.
Okay, pushing ahead.
Thank you. Sorry.
I'm sorry, was there a follow-up? Or? Okay, so is the software COPA compliant? This is another question that I've gotten quite often. And, you know, to be honest, this is a bit of a new world for us. We understand these, you know, these regulatory benchmarks that we need to meet for certain institutions. I think it's one of those things that we need to learn about and kind of go through the bureaucratic process. I can't make the claim that we have that official seal of approval at this point, but it's something that we will work on. We do have a privacy policy that I think may already be COPA compliant, but I just got to go through the steps to figure out how do we get the right imprimatur.
Right. I'm pretty sure that we are, because the only thing we need is for someone to create an account with an email address. We're not collecting their name, their physical address, their photograph. You know, we don't collect any personal information. And so we of course want to make sure that our lawyers agree with us. But at this point, and I'm in academia, I'm a dean at City University of New York. So I have to deal with all sorts of FERPA and HIPAA and compliancy issues. And looking at the way that we deal with a rehearsal, which is private, so that you can't be Zoom bombed in an RLS session, because you know who you're inviting, and the only people that can join are those that have been invited, and you have complete control of that particular session. We further keep very, very little information. And I would say for children under 13, the only thing that we really need is an email address so that they can log in through an account.
So moving on, I have to go to another meeting. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Sinfonia on a licensed show.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Yes, you can use this on a Sinfonia show. The thing to understand in the Sinfonia context, and for those who don't know, before COVID, the nuts and bolts of our business was providing resources to the theater community. And we had a number of different resources related to helping you with fill out your orchestra and rehearsal tools for the musical and gathering the keyboard sounds, things like that. And that has been the basis of our business for over 20 years. So some people know about us through like this product Symphonia, which is an orchestra enhancement technology. And you can use this technology with Symphonia. Here's the difference. When you use it with Symphonia, you would have to take out a mix add-on license, which is $100. And it's different from the subscriber side, because in this case, we are providing the content. And you would have the mix license for the duration of your performance run, or your rehearsal plus performance run, and you would have all this functionality for your show. It's just not the same. I just need to make sure that people understand there's a line between using it with RMS created content like Symphonia versus when you're using it for RMS Creator when you're supplying your own content. In the latter case, you take out a subscription, you can do it with as many shows as you want, use it with as many people as you want for as long as the subscription is active. For RMS created content, it's going to be tied to your rehearsal performance license. All right, next we've got,
let's see.
Headphones, from Millie, the headphones, not earbuds with mics attached. I'm going to assume that that's an iOS question, an iPhone question. If so, the point there is that you can use earbuds provided you have a wired mic. Otherwise, you need to have a wired headphones. The mics that are built into Bluetooth headphones just aren't good enough and won't work for the purposes here. They're designed for speech.
So Gene asks, can the conductor player sing? And I think actually we've received requests for this particular type of a thing. Do you want to respond to that, Jeff? Or
well, I'm hesitant a little bit because there are some technical issues that I don't want to bog down the conversation with. But let me try to simplify it in this way. The thing about the conductor singing is that the conductor is out of sync with the other participants. So if the conductor is singing, that signal is going to go back to the participants and it's going to be out of time with those participants. And it's going to, probably screw things up. Now, there might be some tricks that you could bring to bear. There might be some things where maybe you can mute the outgoing signal from the director so you can capture something that is synchronized with the incoming audio feeds from the participants, and then that can be shared back. But that's probably a little out of scope for a quick answer, and probably would require us to do some testing anyway and maybe develop it as a new feature. So I guess the short answer is, at the moment, maybe with some convoluted approaches.
Hey, Jeff?
And the long answer is yes.
Yeah, just as a conductor who's played around with this a little bit, I can tell you, and also as an organist who's learned to play ahead of when I want this sound to arrive, I've played a little bit with that idea of a conducting in advance before the signal comes in, and I think it does have potential to work. So I think it is in the realm of the doable.
That's great to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, it's very encouraging. And yeah, we've been thinking about this because, wow, my seat just collapsed. We've been thinking about this because some people have brought up the idea of, like, I think that it was an RMS person that said Lady Gaga wants to perform and she wants to direct, but she wants her backing group to be with her and she wants to sing as well. So we recognize that this makes a lot of sense, that we would want the conductor to be able to sing along. One of the things to recognize, though, and I've said this before, if the conductor is listening to the people that are performing, they're listening to something that's already happened in the past. So the conductor might be able to sing along, but if the conductor's sound is now sent back to the performers, they're hearing something that's even further in the past. Mm-hmm. And so this is just the issue that we're dealing with. Tracy Brefka is asking, with Zoom involved, can we do a live performance for the invitees? And I think that's sort of what we just did, right? I mean, we demonstrated a live.
That sort of answered my question. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we're doing it here. I would just say that the quality on Zoom, the audio quality on Zoom is not as good as the audio quality through RLS. So one of the things we're going to be developing is an audience mode, which would allow you to basically broadcast what comes directly from RLS to a larger group, which I think would give some better quality.
On the previous question about conductors singing with, because I sing along with my group, I set up a separate user account and a separate Gmail account. So I'm sort of a participant while everybody else is too.
Yeah.
So when the recording comes through, we're all in sync.
Right. So that's interesting.
Workaround.
But you're actually instantiating two users, right? You've got Director Tracy.
Director, and then I have a participant account.
Right. And then Director Tracy unmutes. Right. Director Tracy just doesn't listen while he's singing, right? Director Tracy, Singer Tracy is singing while Director Tracy is closing his ears.
Correct.
Oh, yeah. I like that idea. That's
kind of a quick fix until you come up with something else.
Yeah, I think we'll put that as one of our use cases for now too. Thanks for the idea.
Not a problem.
I mean, we do this a lot. Like I'll set up 2 sessions because I want to test something as a director in RLS and I don't have anyone else. So I'll set up another computer with a participant. But I hadn't thought about actually doing that as a use case. So that's
how I kind of figured it out, because that's what I've been doing. I haven't really gotten the group totally involved yet. So I was just trying to playing around and go, if I play and I listen and sing over there, then it'll come back as a separate track.
Right. And in fact, when you think about it, that could be a good way for you to build your a cappella guide tracks and things like that, is you just
That was I was thinking to do too. Yeah.
Anyway, it's always exciting to hear people that come up with creative solutions. And this always helps, push the state of the art forward.
So will this session be available for public viewing? Yeah, we're recording right now. I'm hoping the recording is successful, and assuming it is, we will post it for future viewing.
And I think once we actually have the video sharing and stuff in place, then you don't even need to do that through Zoom. We're recording in Zoom, but it is with all the Zoom issues with audio, which is just Zoom's paradigm. And Zoom is great. We're on Zoom now. I use Zoom. Too many hours a day in my job, but it is not designed for music. And I think that's where our real advantage is that we are designed for music and music performance. We did talk about Chromebooks. Ellen answered that. So
here's a question about computer requirements. Yeah, there's a page about technical requirements. I believe Ellen has already shared that. The most important thing I think to understand when it comes to the technical requirements of RLS is that the director is going to need the best machine. And the better the machine the director has, the more stuff he or she will be able to do. The participants, by contrast, can get away with lesser machines. And I think we're now just at the point where we got a bunch of thank yous, and I will return it. Thank you to all of you. This has been a lot of fun. I hope it's been helpful. And if questions occur to you later, don't hesitate to reach out, either through the email that was part of that Zoom invitation or through our website where you can submit a contact request. And we want to help you make the most of this, and we hope it can be a great thing for you.
So I guess what that Jeff is saying is that we are going to end our webinar with great thanks. Please reach out to us with any questions or things like that. And if I say any more, I'll just be repeating what I've said or Jeff's already said in the past. So have a great weekend, everybody. Remember to turn your clocks back Sunday night, and please vote.
Yes. All right. Well, it's a session. It's a demo. Okay. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Yeah, we'll put it on Facebook. We'll post this on Facebook.
Bye-bye.
Don't use Facebook.
We'll post it on our own site.
We'll find a way.
We'll email it to you.
Shoot us an email. I'll send you the link.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I don't blame you for not using Facebook.
Oh, no. I'm in Glasgow in Scotland.
Oh.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, I am now ending the session.